Episode is about insulin resistance, the hidden stage of diabetes that can begin years before your blood sugar becomes high. Imagine finding out today that your body has been working overtime for the last 10 years and it has been winning so successfully that every blood test you have ever taken kept telling you the same reassuring story. Everything is normal. But nobody can keep working overtime forever because by the time blood sugar finally starts to rise, your body may have spent years trying to stop that from happening. So here's today's investigation. If blood sugar stays normal all those years, who was doing all the extra work? And why did that system eventually fail? Imagine two people walking into the same clinic on the same morning. They are same age, similar weight, similar lifestyle. Both have a routine blood test. A few minutes later, the doctor smiles and says exactly the same thing to both of them. Your blood sugar is perfectly normal. But here's what the blood test couldn't tell them. One of those people is healthy, the other has already been developing a disease for years. A disease quietly changing their metabolism, affecting the liver, increasing their risk of heart disease. And they have absolutely no idea. How can that be possible? Isn't high blood sugar supposed to be a warning sign? That's what most of us believe. But what if we have been looking at the very last chapter of the story while missing everything that came before it? Here's our first piece of evidence. Researchers have found that insulin resistance often begins years, sometimes more than a decade, before type 2 diabetes is diagnosed. During all that time, routine blood sugar can remain completely normal. The disease is invisible because our body is trying very hard to hide the disease. That raises an even bigger question. If blood sugar is staying normal, who is doing all the extra work? Somewhere inside the body, something is working overtime to keep up the illusion that everything is fine. Let's leave the human body for a moment and visit a busy warehouse. Every day, delivery trucks arrive carrying valuable cargo. To unload those trucks, a large steel gate has to open. When the warehouse was brand new, one worker could slide that heavy gate with almost no effort. Years pass, dust builds up, rust appears on the rails, the gate becomes heavier and harder to move. One worker pushes, but it's no longer enough. So the warehouse manager sends another worker, then another worker. Soon, 4 or 5 workers are pushing the same gate that one person used to open. Here's the fascinating part. If you're only watching trucks from outside, you wouldn't be able to notice anything unusual. They are still entering the warehouse. Deliveries still happen. From the outside, everything looks perfectly normal. But inside, everyone knows the system is under pressure. That's remarkably similar to what's happening inside your body. Those extra workers are insulin. And that warehouse manager sending more and more workers, that's your pancreas. As the cell becomes less responsive, your pancreas doesn't panic. It simply produces more insulin to keep everything moving. This is one of the biggest clues in our investigation. High insulin often appears years before high blood sugar. The gate is still opening, deliveries are still getting through. That's why your blood sugar report can look completely normal, even though your pancreas has been working overtime for years. But now another question appears. Gates don't become rusty overnight. Something caused that change. What made the cells gradually stop responding in the first place? Because if we can answer that question, we may finally uncover where this disease truly begins. We have discovered something remarkable. The workers aren't the problem. The manager isn't the problem. They're simply responding to a gate that's becoming harder to open. Which brings us to the most important question in this entire investigation. Who rusted the gate? If someone told you a warehouse gate became rusty overnight, You probably wouldn't believe them. Rust doesn't appear in a single day. It develops gradually, almost unnoticed. And that's exactly how insulin resistance develops. Not after one meal, not after one dessert, but over many years. And what causes the rust? The answer isn't one single thing. Imagine if the warehouse received far more deliveries than it could handle day after day. The loading dock never gets a break. The machinery wears faster, rails collect dirt, maintenance falls behind. Over time, opening the gate simply becomes harder. Inside our bodies, several things can contribute to the overload. Constant excess calories, especially over long periods. Too little physical activity, meaning muscles use less of the incoming energy. Poor sleep, chronic stress, excess visceral fat, which changes the chemical environment around the body's organs. None of this act alone, they often work together. Notice something important. None of this are attacking insulin itself. The workers are still doing exactly what they have done earlier. The problem is that gate has become less responsive. So the manager has only one option, keep sending more workers. And that's where today's investigation takes an unexpected turn. The pancreas can keep sending more workers, but not forever. Every system has limits. The question is no longer why the gate became rusty. It's what happens when even an entire team of workers can no longer force the gate to open. That's the moment the story changes. Because when the warehouse can no longer keep up, the consequences spread far beyond the gate. They reach the liver, the bloodstream, and eventually the entire city. Here's where the mystery takes another unexpected turn. If the warehouse are already packed, what happens to the next delivery? Does the truck simply wait forever? Surprisingly, no. The city has a backup plan. Every city has a central warehouse that handles overflow. In your body, that's your liver. When the muscles and other cells can't comfortably accept more energy, the liver increasingly becomes the storage center of the excess. At first, this is actually helpful. Liver takes the extra glucose and converts much of it into fat for storage. It's trying to keep the city roads clear and blood sugar under control. But imagine this happening every day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Day after day, month after month, year after year. The liver keeps accepting more deliveries and keeps converting more of them into fat. And eventually, even central warehouse starts running out of space. This is called fatty liver. Not because you ate too much fat, but because liver has been overwhelmed by years of excess energy. It has become the city's emergency storage facility. And now the investigation uncovers another clue. A warehouse that is already overflowing can't keep storing everything forever. Eventually, it has to start shipping some of that fat somewhere else. If you watch our cholesterol investigation, you already met those trucks. They are called VLTL. The liver loads them with fat and sends them into bloodstream. What started as insulin resistance is now beginning to change your cholesterol numbers as well. And that raises our biggest question yet. Could insulin resistance, fatty liver, high triglycerides, and cholesterol all be different chapters of the same story? Throughout this entire investigation, delivery trucks didn't suddenly increase overnight. They had been arriving after every meal for years. The difference was the city could no longer unload them fast enough. The queues became longer and longer until they stretched across the entire city. That's the moment a blood test finally notices something that has been happening all along. Doctors call it high blood sugar. But what you are really seeing is years of silent compensation coming to an end. This changed how we think about type 2 diabetes. It doesn't begin the day your blood sugar becomes high. By then, the pancreas may have spent years working overtime. Your cells have slowly changed. Your liver has been storing excess energy. Your metabolism has been adapting long before the diagnosis arrived. That's why focusing only on blood sugar is like waiting for the fire alarm before checking your smoke. The alarm didn't create the fire, it simply told you the problem, which had been growing quietly for a long time. And here's the encouraging part: this story isn't about a broken body, it's about a body that spent years trying to protect you. The pancreas worked harder, the liver adapted, your cells changed to cope with a constant energy surplus. Understanding that changes the question completely. Instead of asking, how do I lower my blood sugar? We began by asking, why did my body need to raise it in the first place? That's where the real prevention begins. Today's story surprised you. Don't wait until your blood sugar becomes abnormal to start asking questions. Speak with your healthcare provider about whether tests like fasting glucose, fasting insulin, HbA1c, and your lipid profile are appropriate for you. Together, they can provide a clearer picture of your metabolic health than blood sugar alone.